Good morning and welcome to today's session on the immune system of the soul. Today's topic is indigestion, and we are going to look at indigestion of our consciousness. So the disease of indigestion is the need to know more. So we are very much aware of physical indigestion and the problems it can cause to the body. We know that when we eat too much too quickly, there's the experience of acid reflux, ulcers, sometimes there's bloating, there might be diarrhea, or even the experience of constipation. And so on a physical level, indigestion causes a lot of discomfort and dis-ease. So what happens when we have indigestion of our consciousness? So some of the symptoms are mental confusion, the inability to focus one's attention, and there's emotional agitation. So there's fluctuations of our emotions. And the belief that causes the disease is, I need to know what's going on. I may miss something important. I wonder what happened to so-and-so. I need to know more about maybe a person or an event. So these are some of the beliefs that we have where there's a constant need to know, and there's a fear of missing out. And so we live in what is called the information age. So there's access to Google, and the benefits are, of course, access to information is always beneficial. Knowledge is empowering oneself. But the question arises is, when do we use Google and how often and how much? One of the common things we tend to do is diagnose our illnesses using Google. And this can be dangerous, actually, because medicine is a whole field of study, and attempting to diagnose can be dangerous. And then, of course, social media. We all are exposed to social media on a daily basis. And of course, we experienced or saw the benefits during lockdown, when we couldn't meet our friends and family. And the only way of keeping the contact or connection was obviously using technology. And so the benefits or the advantages were obviously by using video calls or WhatsApp calls, we were able to keep the connection during this difficult time. And then, of course, we are all aware of the disadvantages, fake news and information overload. I know that during the unrest that happened in Durban, in South Africa, it's where I live, there was a lot of fake news and false information that was being circulated. And it was a cause of unnecessary anxiety, fear, and worry. And so we can see the downsides to social media and downsides of fake news. So how is one able to discern what is false and what is true? And information overload, well, the brain is constantly taking in information. We need to filter what's important and what's necessary. And there really isn't a need to know 95% of what's happening around us all the time. Everything really is temporary. You know, what was on the news last month is now history. Since then, there's been many events taking place on a daily basis. Life is constantly changing, and we actually can't keep up with the change that's happening. And so there seems to be this constant change of challenges, events, obstacles. The world is going through a very difficult time. And so it's important to remember that whatever is happening is also temporary. It's not permanent. So how do we create nutritional value for the soul? So it comes back to the awareness of the real. So seeing the real with our inner eye. And what is the reality? The reality is you. So the I that says, I am. So I, the soul, creates my thoughts, creates my feelings, I create my responses to what I see on the news, what I see on social media. I have a choice in how I choose to respond. And so I am responsible for my thoughts and feelings. So the real is what I am giving to the world, and it's not what I am consuming from the world. And when I remind myself of the awareness of I, the soul, and I tap into my innate potential of peace, love, happiness, and power, then this vibration is able to travel to souls around me, souls maybe in another country even, but it penetrates into the atmosphere. And so this is called giving rather than consuming. It's being benevolent, and it's being able to cooperate with what's going on in the world at the moment, and to cooperate with souls and to give souls the feeling of peace, the feeling of security, the feeling of safety that is so much needed right now. So reality is what you hear from your own intuition. It's not what is broadcast by institutions. So we've lost the ability to use our intuition. A lovely example of intuition is mothers. A mom knows when her baby is not well. She just knows when something is not right. So this knowing doesn't depend on information, too much information. This knowing depends on something that comes from very deep within the soul. It's a very subtle power, but we seem to have lost that power because we've chosen to rely on information that comes from outside. And so meditation helps me to develop that subtle power of my intuition. So the ability to know without making too much effort into finding out or consuming information from the outside world. And it comes back to this formula of the 3 dots, which I have mentioned previously. And it's the formula I feel for solving everything. So the 3 dots, the first one is I, the soul. So I, the soul, am real. I am present. I am alive. And the Supreme Soul, just like me, is a point of light, divinity, so also called the divine. But we know that the Supreme Soul is the source or the ocean of peace, the ocean of love, the ocean of purity, the ocean of power, and the ocean of bliss. And so when I create the connection, I remind myself of my truth and who it is I belong, then there is this connection that's created, and energy flows from a high source to a low source. So we are all depleted at this time, and we need all power and the source, the Supreme Soul, is there to offer this to us. So I just need to remind myself and to make the connection. And the 3rd dot is the drama of life. So in this drama of life, there are people, there are events happening, and it's constantly changing. So in this world drama, nothing is permanent. But there's a lot happening in the drama. And so to remind myself, sometimes to just put a full stop to the traffic of thoughts that's happening in my mind about what's going on here, what's going on in the news, about the weather, about other people, about work, about home. Sometimes it's too much and it can be overwhelming. And so I need to put a full stop. When I put a full stop, I'm able to access a very pure, powerful energy within the soul. And when I remind myself of my truth, then I'm able to connect with the Supreme Source. And this source of power is great. It's immeasurable, it's unlimited, and it's extremely powerful. And when I continue with this practice on a daily basis, I'm beginning to open my 3rd eye, or I'm beginning to empower that intuitive knowingness inside myself. And this obviously can bring benefit not only to myself, but to those around me. So I'm able to make quick and clear decisions when needed. And so I love this magical formula, the 3 dots, to remind myself of what's constant and what's not, what's real. And when I remind myself of what's real, then the drama of life becomes insignificant and is not able to influence that which is real. So I hope you have pen and paper. You're going to do a little bit of self-reflection now. So the first question, we're going to look at the topic of awareness. How frequently do you find yourself consuming information in the day? How frequently do you find yourself consuming information each day? So I'll give you a few minutes to jot down for yourself. And the second question, under the heading of realization, what percentage of the information is useful? What percentage is nourishing? And what percentage is a waste of time and energy? So going back to the first question, where we looked at how frequently do you find yourself consuming information each day? So maybe you're spending an hour on social media, an hour on Facebook, Google, whatever. You write down for yourself how much time you spend taking in information, whether it's reading the newspaper or watching the news, whatever. And then of that, what percentage of the information is useful? What percentage is nourishing? And what percentage is a waste of time and energy? Okay, and the third part, under the topic of transformation, think of 5 alternative creative actions. So create 5 alternative creative actions. That is, things you can do instead of consuming information from electronic media. So it's not that we want you to stop using electronic media as a resource, as it is a valuable resource, but what could be reduced or even replaced by your own creativity. So maybe if I'm on too many social platforms, maybe I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, maybe it's not necessary to have all of them. Perhaps maybe just one of them or maybe 2 of them. So create 5 alternative creative actions for things you can do instead of consuming information from electronic media. We don't realize it sometimes, but taking in information, whether it's from the news, the newspaper, watching TV, even using my phone, we don't realize how much time it actually takes up when we consume information. And these media platforms are so ingenious, when you Google one thing, for example, many other things will come up related to your topic. And sometimes, I don't know if you've had this experience where you're Googling one thing, and before you know it, you're on a completely different subject because you found something else that was interesting. And so a lot of time and energy gets wasted in this way. So our attention is not focused, obviously. And obviously, in this age of social media, the biggest problem is inactivity. So especially children are not playing as much as they used to, not getting enough sunshine and fresh air and exercise. So you think of 5 alternative creative actions you can do instead of consuming information from electronic media. Okay, so I will stop here. This is a recording, so I'm not able to be live, but Nita or Aruna will be able to take your questions and comments. I hope the session was useful, and I hope you enjoyed it. So have a lovely day, and we'll see you soon.